Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about real numbers. You might be asking yourself, what is a real number and are there numbers that aren't real? And actually there are. As you get into further math, you'll learn about things called imaginary numbers. But today we're just going to talk about real numbers. Now, real numbers are numbers that you are used to using. You just may not know that they have actual specific names for the types of numbers. Those are called the subsets of real numbers. There are 5 of them. The best way I've ever found to learn these is to think of this picture of a wedding cake. Okay, so in this wedding cake, there are going to be your 4 subsets. The bottom one is your biggest group. These are what we call rational numbers. Now, rational numbers are broken up into smaller groups. The first group and the smallest group are called natural numbers. Now, natural numbers, best way to think of that is it is natural to count with numbers. So natural numbers are going to be all of your counting numbers. Now, when we start counting, we don't start with 0, we just start with 1. So natural numbers are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth forever, all the way up to infinity. Just your counting regular old positive numbers. That is the smallest subset of numbers, of real numbers. The second subset of real numbers are whole numbers. Now, whole numbers are all of your natural numbers plus 0. The only difference between a natural number and a whole number is the number 0. So these start with 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. So if you notice, and as we keep going down our cake here, if you notice, natural numbers are also whole numbers. You can only go down, you cannot go up. So not all whole numbers are natural numbers, but all natural numbers are whole numbers. They're included in the group. Our third subset are going to be called integers. Now, just like all natural numbers were included in whole numbers, all of these are going to be included in integers, and then we're going to add a little bit extra. So integers are going to be all of your negative numbers. And I like to say negative whole numbers. Technically, that's not correct because a whole number can't be negative. But what I mean is -1, -2, -3, not any of the numbers in between. So I have negative numbers, 0, and positive numbers. In other words, negative numbers, whole numbers, and natural numbers. My last group down here are going to be rational numbers. Rational numbers are all of these, so all of your negatives, zeros, and positives, and all fractions and decimals, so fractions that become repeating or terminating decimals. Repeating decimals would be like 0.3 with a line above it, 0.5 with a line above it. A terminating decimal is a decimal ends like 0.25 or 0.3. So those are all going to be your rational numbers. So a rational number is a fraction that becomes a repeating or terminating decimal. Okay, now remember I said there were 5. The last one are going to be irrational numbers. And I like to say that the irrational numbers are kind of over here on their own table. And they are, I represent them at least with a pi. Because pi, the number pi, is an irrational number. They are part of whole numbers, or sorry, they are part of real numbers, but they are their own category. Now, irrational numbers are decimals that never repeat or never end. So we have irrational numbers here. And irrational numbers never repeat and never end, such as the number pi, 3.14159, forever and always, never repeating, never ending. So your subsets of real numbers are going to be natural, whole, integer, rational, irrational. Now, the reason that we do this as a cake is if I wanted to have a piece of cake that represented the number 3. If I wanted a piece of cake that represented the number 3, I would have to start my cutting at natural. And if I were going to cut through and make a whole piece of cake, the number 3 is going to be a natural number. I'm going to cut through the whole, integer, and rational. So the number 3 is going to be natural, whole, integer, and rational. It is all 4 categories because it's wherever you start and everything underneath. Now, what if I were talking about the number, let's say negative 22. Well, negative 22 isn't a counting number, isn't a whole number. It's going to start right here in the integers. So I'm only going to take my knife and cut an integer piece and a rational piece. So negative 22 is only an integer and a rational number. Now here's a tricky one. Negative 1/3. So a lot of people, and don't let this trick you, a lot of people will consider negative 1/3 as an integer. But remember, integers are only your negative whole numbers, 0, and positive numbers. Not any of the numbers in between. 1/3, negative 1/3 is in between 0 and negative 1. So that won't count as an integer. This is a fraction, a reduced fraction, before it is a negative. So a negative 1/3 is only a rational number. Here's another trick one. What if I have the square root of 64? Well, if you've learned square roots, you know that square roots are whatever this number can be split into of the same number twice. 64 is the same as 8 times 8. So the square root of 64 is actually the number 8. And that number then would start here at natural and go all the way through all 4. So the square root of 64 is a natural, a whole, an integer, and a rational number. If you like this video, please click like, subscribe to my channel. In the comments, if you have any topics that you're learning right now and you'd like a video over them, please comment and I will get to them and make some videos based on people's specific needs. Have a great day.